ETH just tapped its previous all-time high, but the big question is, are we going straight up from here or a bearish correction is expected? Hello everyone, Richard here and welcome to a new weekly overview here on AltCryptoTalk. Today, I'll be analyzing ETH from a short-term perspective, long-term perspective, price action, market structure, you name it. In fact, it would be the most detailed ETH analysis you'll ever watch. So let's dive straight into it, and of course don't forget to smash that like button if you like such content. Starting with a daily price action naked chart. ETH has been overall bullish, especially after rejecting the 1.5k accumulation phase, broke above the previous high, and here the momentum has been shifted from bearish to bullish. Previously we can see a similar price action. If you zoom a little bit out, you can see a bearish trend, accumulation, markup started, distribution, markdown started, accumulation again, markup, and we are currently in this phase. We remain bullish as long as ETH doesn't break below the last low. For example, we have been bullish here, we broke below the low, and now we are making lower highs and lower lows. Then we broke above a high and we started to make higher lows and higher highs. As long as this low holds, ETH will remain overall bullish, and it's lining up perfectly with this previous major highs around 4k round number. You can clearly see it if you, for example, draw a little line. That's it. Previous major high, previous weekly high, 4k round number, and this last major low. If you break below it, of course, we'll be starting the markdown phase. But of course, I doubt it because we are currently in a bullish trend. That's it from a price action perspective. Now, from a long-term perspective, log chart. On weekly time frame, this is just to get a feeling about the overall optimistic target. Let's compare the previous cycle. 2018, we had the top, we had this big range accumulation phase, we broke above it, we pushed higher, we broke above the previous all-time high, and we surged by over 250%. If history repeats itself, we can see that we've got this previous all-time high, 2021, we went lower, formed a big accumulation phase, broke above it, so we are currently right there, and we are currently trying to break above the previous all-time high. Once we break above it, of course, with a daily candle close, or even better, a weekly candle close above it, we'll be expecting the optimistic target towards 16k, 17k, which would be the very similar projection, 250%. But of course, this is an optimistic target, it's doable, but let's take it a little bit further and zooming in to a medium-term perspective. On 4H, our chart, we have been overall bullish. We've rejected the lower bound of this rising channel. Thus, we expected this big bullish movement towards the upper bound of this rising broadening wedge that you can see in green. We are currently in the middle of this big impulse. I'm expecting a target of 5k 400, which would be lining up perfectly with the upper bound. Of course, currently we are in this correction phase within this next big impulse movement. This section here reminds me of this phase. Correction, one last big movement before the bearish correction starts. Maybe if you push a little bit higher, we'll be retesting this previous all-time highs here around 5k, 4.8k before pushing higher again. That's it from a medium-term perspective. Last but not least, from a short-term perspective, we've started the bearish correction phase. A short-term one, we're expecting a movement towards this demand zone. This is a massive movement on Friday, where Jerome Powell hinted that they will be lowering interest rates by September in the next Fed meeting. We had this crazy bullish movement. The market is optimistic again. The stock market, the crypto market, everything is going up. But of course, after tapping the all-time high, as mentioned previously, and making a slight new all-time high, we have been in a correction phase, especially after breaking below this previous major low. We are currently bearish short term, but of course you can see that we are still in a big bullish trend from a long-term perspective. So a correction phase, if you push a little bit lower towards the 4.1, 4.2, this demand zone here, we'll be expecting another big impulse movement towards the all-time highs again. But again, from a short-term perspective, we are bearish. Long-term perspective, we are still bullish as long as we hold above the 4K. And from a macro perspective, this is just a small correction. If you zoom a little bit in, you can clearly see it right there. We can still retest this area, 3.8K, 4K that we saw previously, lining up with this previous major highs, correction before breaking above this current all-time high and 5K round number before we push like this in a parabolic manner. Let me know in the comments which view you like the most. Are you a short-term trader, swing trader, position trader? And of course, let me know if you like this deep dive and what token you would like me to go over next. And I'll see you hopefully on the next one.